Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Gets to a question about the Mueller investigation. If it turns out, as the president has said so many times, that he did not collude with the Russians to interfere in the election, but in fact he was pursuing this Trump Tower at the same time, if that's not criminal, does Mueller have a responsibility to report it or no?
He does have a responsibility to report it. And in fact, if you take the position, and I think it's a flawed one, but if you take the position that the president cannot be indicted, and the only remedy for improper, illegal, or other conduct is impeachment, then you cannot withhold that information from Congress, or essentially the president has immunity. So that cannot be allowed to be the case. Bill Barr has committed in his testimony to making as much of the report public as he can, and the regulations allow him to make it all public. And we're going to insist on it becoming public. And more than that, George, we're going to insist on, because there is certain evidence that is only in the hands of the Department of Justice, that we can't get any other way. There were searches conducted, for example, of Roger Stone and Paul Manafort. There's no other way to get the information that was seized except through the department. And we can't tell the country fully what happened without it.
As you know, William Barr may have quite a different view of what those regulations require than you do. They could allow him to release the entire report, but under Justice Department regulations, officials have said that if you decline to prosecute someone, then the underlying evidence should not be released.
But, George, the department has violated that policy repeatedly and extendedly, to a great extent over the last 2 years. And in fact, I've had this conversation with Rod Rosenstein and others on down at the Justice Department as they turned over thousands and thousands of pages of discovery in the Clinton email investigation, and there was no indictment in that investigation, that this was a new precedent they were setting, and they were going to have to live by this precedent, whether it was a Congress controlled by the Democrats or Republicans. So they're going to have to abide by that. And I think also, quite separate and apart from the precedent they've already set, is the intense public need to know here, which I think overrides any other consideration.
You say the Justice Department is going to have to live by that precedent, but what if they don't? What if they simply say, no, we're not going to release the underlying evidence? What options do you have?
Well, we will obviously subpoena the report. We will bring Bob Mueller in to testify before Congress. We will take it to court if necessary. And in the end, I think the department understands they're going to have to make this public. I think Barr will ultimately understand that as well. Barr comes into this job with 2 strikes against him. He applied for the job by demonstrating a bias against the Mueller investigation. Indeed, that's part of the reason he was hired. He's also not been willing to commit to following the advice of ethics lawyers. Indeed, that was part of the reason he was hired. Withhold to try to bury any part of this report, that will be his legacy, and it will be a tarnished legacy. So I think there'll be immense pressure not only on the department but on the Attorney General to be forthcoming.
Are you talking about public pressure? You prepared to take the administration to court?
Absolutely. We are going to get to the bottom of this. We are going to share this information with the public, and if the president is serious about all of his claims of exoneration, then he should welcome the publication of this report.
The president has said no collusion many times, as I said. You said many months ago that you've already developed evidence of collusion. We haven't seen that from Robert Mueller. Do you have any evidence at all that the president colluded?
George, there's ample evidence of collusion of the campaign, and it's very much in the public record. And it's everything from what we have seen recently about Paul Manafort meeting with someone linked to Russian intelligence and sharing polling data, and not top-line data, not this is why we think Trump is going to win data, but raw data, complicated data. We've seen evidence of Roger Stone in communication with WikiLeaks. We've seen the president's son having a secret meeting at Trump Tower that was presented to him as part of the Russian government's effort to help the Trump campaign. His acceptance of that help, his interest in getting that. All of this is evidence of collusion, and there's much, much more. Whether that will amount to a criminal conspiracy that can be proved beyond reasonable doubt, we will have to wait for Bob Mueller to tell us. But to not see what is plainly in front of us means you basically don't want to see the evidence of collusion because it is quite abundant.
It is Monday, the 25th of February of 2019, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is River City Hash Mondays. It's been another one of those weekend, folks, and it's everything's been diced up to size and thrown together in one iron cast iron. Some people call it a pot. I call it a Dutch oven. Okay. So without the lid, when we're doing this kind of River City hash, we don't put the lid on it. Oh, no. Well, Trump's going off on Harry Reid. Harry Reid is dying of pancreatic cancer, and Trump is going on about what a terrible life Harry Reid has had. Well, that's what mobsters do, okay? He's a heartless bee, isn't he? I'm talking about Trump, not Harry. Come on. Harry's got a lot of heart. What a D. And an I and a CK. Yep. It looks like Trump doesn't like Spike Lee either. A lot. He doesn't like Spike Lee a lot. And I'm pretty sure Spike Lee doesn't like Trump very much as well. Though, I will say, I don't know what was racist. Trump called Spike Lee's attacks against him racist. First of all, he never attacked Trump. He never named Trump. And all he says is that, black people ought to get out and vote more, which is obviously a racist threat to a white nationalist mobbed up president. How else would he take it? Jeez. And then you got Cornyn quoting Mussolini. I mean, come on, what's next? Pol Pot? Come on, John. Pol Pot was right up there, too. Everybody forgets about Pol Pot. Well, it looks like the Mueller report, according to Adam Schiff, is going to get subpoenaed if necessary, and Mueller may have to appear before Congress, the House Intel Committee, because if necessary. We don't know how necessary it might be. It is odd, and I say this with all facetiousness implied. I do find it odd that every single investigator that was an expert on Russian mob activity, like McCabe, summarily fired. Get out of here. You don't even get a pension. Yeah, crook. Good thing we found you out early. Yeah, crook. Yeah, the cops. Every single one of the cops have been, out of the investigation. How is that? Oh, yeah, he's innocent. And then you got Uday. I don't know. Is it Hussein or Uday? Junior and I can never keep the two. I confuse the two. One is Hussein and the other one is Uday. But the one with the beard, Junior, God, the arrogance of these people. But if you tell them the big lie, everything has to be big now, doesn't it? Everything. Oh, boy. It's Monday, folks. What else do we have going on here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Well, knowing that Southwest Airlines mechanics are worried their planes are falling apart explains the unasked upgrade I just got. Well, I told them I'm not going to be using the tickets. I made other plans. They gave me an upgrade. No wonder. Falling from out of the sky. That's how they punish you for trying to get a refund on your tickets. Well, several Ole Miss basketball players took a knee to protest a pro-Confederate rally, which just shows how unpatriotic they are to the Confederacy. How dare they? And the NRA is under fire for a Target Practice magazine photo of Pelosi and Giffords. That is so blatantly bad. Oh, well, of course, the NRA has probably run out of the rubles that they had stashed away and been laundering, so they're desperate. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where the White House is forming a new dodgy panel of scientists, and I put quotes around scientists, to challenge the government's climate change findings. Do not listen to the experts in your own government. They're the deep state. Listen to Vlad. Vlad says, oh yeah, why not get a biology professor? And maybe you can get a political scientist up there too, and they're all scientists. A behavioral scientist or two, maybe even a social scientist from Liberty University. They're all scientists. And the House Oversight Committee is set to vote tomorrow to subpoena documents on the Trump administration's migrant family separation policy. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com. To the rightish of that page, at the bottom there, is the chat room link, monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly. And I should give you a pre-mention here. Kelly and Ricky had been taking over the Roundtable Roundhouse Power Hour. And while they were doing that, it changed. That whole Roundtable Roundhouse Power Hour changed, and it is now the late night morning show with Ricky and Kelly. So we'll give you more information. They're going to be on a couple of times. So we'll reprise a show of theirs that they do on the weekend and on the weekend for your listening pleasure here at Netroots Radio. So thank you, Kelly, for monitoring the chat room link, and thank you for it was some sort of chemical reaction that occurred, and next thing you know, it's the late night morning show. Alrighty, if you then take a look to the leftish of the page, at the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, by the way, you will notice the contribute button. Do please become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio. Your recurring contribution, it could be buy us a coffee once a month, okay? That amount that you would be spending on a coffee when it comes to us helps us pay the bills and buy equipment that we are now going to have to purchase. And we're eking these machines out to their last little bit. And they've been going on for quite a while. Years. I don't want to, I'm scared to think that it's getting close to the 10 decade type. Oh, no, it can't be that long. Boy, what if it is? Nah, it's not that long. But, getting close, within a few years of that. And no one does that. They change out the machines every 6 months. Well, not here, because we're part of the resistance, and we're not getting any Saudi Arabian money. Oh, no. No, they would never give it to us anyway. Jeez. And the Russians have given up on us because, well, we just happen to be Americans, and we don't like hostile foreign powers using our, dissatisfaction with the way that government might be running, and we want to be able to vote, and they're trying to influence us? No, we influence them. All right. Okay, so if you would like to follow Netroots Radio after that screed, you can, and you can do that on Twitter at Netroots Radio, and Tom takes care of that, not me. Okay, because I take care of myself, and you can find me on Netroots Radio at Justice Putnam, and those screeds are wholly my own. Really? All right. And you can pick up podcasts of the show by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, YouTube, and wherever podcasts can be found. All right. Let's get on with this. These first offerings here in the Bistro Cafe at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. River City Hash Mondays. All right. Just so you know, there's not much left fresh on Mondays. That's why we put it together in a hash, cook it up at high heat, okay? Everybody does it, and some do it really well. All right. Nicole Carlos of Salon brings us this offering. And it's funny because I was going to fly down to Southern California from here in Southern Oregon, which is a bit difficult because they want to fly you to, over the North Pole, hop on sit in a tarmac, and then maybe sometimes make you disembark, walk through, the airport. And it's really small. Sometimes it's outside under a tent and it's howling winds. And then they put you on another plane, then they fly you to, Ann Arbor, somewhere outside of Ann Arbor, and you sit there, and then they fly you to Southern California. It's really weird how they do that now. But after deciding that I'd have to rent a car and just, all the attendant costs, I decided that driving would be more, beneficial to me. So I did. And good thing I did because, I'm not afraid of flying, I got to tell you. I like to fly. I used to fly when it was fun. Boy, we look forward to it. Not anymore. And a good thing because I had a premonition, apparently. Well, Southwest Airlines had announced, and let's see, on Saturday, of an operational emergency in which the company grounded and canceled a huge number of flights. May have come as a surprise to the general public. Well, I don't know. You can feel these things. Sometimes when you're sitting in a jet and you wonder, wow, I don't know. This was made during the Princess Touchtone phone era. I don't know. Is the Princess phone still working? Let's plug it in. Let's see. No, the dial light does not work anymore. And this plane's still flying? Yeah. Well, anyone who had been following 6 years of alarm blaring over safety issues from the corporation's mechanics union, well, they're all a bunch of a bunch of commies, socialist commies. Don't listen to them. The Aircraft Mechanics Fraternal Association, otherwise known as AMFA. Southwest's so-called emergency was a long time coming. Indeed, mechanics in the union say they have been raising safety concerns since 2015. I don't know. I was wondering about it, 2005. This week's operational emergency required Southwest to pull more than 40 of an estimated 750 aircraft at 4 Southwest locations. The airline declared the emergency after negotiations between the union and their airline, though it does follow a CBS investigation in which the news outlet interviewed 26 airline mechanics at both Southwest and American, all of whom shared anecdotes about being pressured not to report potential safety problems by management. This is why we need unions. It's not about a money grab, as if, it's okay for the CEO to make this exorbitantly inflated amount of money at labor's expense and the safety of the clientele. Because money is supreme over all. Scary. A bunch of bean counters are determining whether you live or die. They're rolling dice. It's gambling. Come on. The negotiations between the union and Southwest culminated in this week's public relations mess for the company. Let's see, the airline mechanic said they had to endure threats and intimidation tactics by supervisors for reporting safety concerns, all for the sake of getting aircrafts back into service faster. Well, of course. Everybody wants to save money on flying. I do. That's why they call them budget airlines. They're not only skimping on legroom for you. They're not only making it so that, no more free peanuts. Whatever it is, the crackers, no more free crackers. Okay? They're not just skimping on that. They're rolling the dice that the plane will stay up so they can eke out a few more dollars. And we'll fix it later when we have to. Or could it be so cynical that a bean counter would say, we added it up, and if the plane falls out of the sky, it's still cheaper with all those souls flying away somewhere in the ether, and then just replace it with new aircraft. Then to keep this one flying. I mean, it's easy. We get rid of the aircraft. We don't need to store it somewhere. We don't need to try to parcel it off as a scrap. Well, what about all the lives lost? They pay us cheaper than what we spend. Jump in here and say I wasn't very happy the Green Book won Best Picture. To me, it was just like another Driving Miss Crazy Daisy Lady. Everybody loved Driving Miss Crazy Daisy Lady, and look, Jessica Tandy was a great actress, and but the movie made me cringe. Okay. But everybody loved Driving Miss Crazy Daisy Lady because it fit this idea of how you can separate the races and still live with each other because you got like this barrier. Sometimes it's you sitting in the back seat and your driver driving. Mm-hmm. So the idea of white people saving the day is just such a tired trope. But I did look up one of the rules in the film industry, and if white people aren't saving the day, it's just not Hollywood. You got to remember that, okay? So, wasn't terribly happy about that. I thought that, well, I don't know, maybe Black Panther could have been a fine win. But nope, not this time. I was happy about Roma. I think that was a grand movie, and go see it. And if you don't go see it, get it. Okay? Amazon or wherever it comes. That's a great movie. All right. This next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is Out of Think Progress by Danielle McLean. Speaking of driving Miss Crazy Daisy Lady, what's up with in the South? Let's see. As pro-Confederates marched through the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, the campus in defense of their ancestors who fought to defend the enslavement of African Americans during the Civil War on Saturday, 8 players from the university men's basketball team took a knee during the national anthem in protest. How un-American. How dare you? You hate the flag. Yeah, we hate whatever it is. You call it the stars and bars, whatever it is. It's the Dixie swastika. Jesus. The 8 players taking a knee during the national anthem were adopting the same protest followed by a number of professional athletes over the past 2 years. I'm shocked. Really? I guess Danielle feels that she has to remind us. Some people might have forgot, huh? Well, the players' narrow home win against Georgia was overshadowed by their act of courage against the white nationalists rallying just down the road. We're just tired of these hate groups coming to our school and portraying our campus like it's our actual university, having these hate groups in our school, the team's scoring leader, Tyree, said after the game. Taking a knee during the national anthem was a risky protest by the players, especially in a deep red conservative state such as Mississippi. Oh, you mean a racist state? Dominated by racists and bigots? Is that what that means? Well, then Danielle goes on and describes what happened to Eric Reed and Colin Kaepernick. Now, by contrast, Ole Miss's coach, Kermit Davis, supported his players after the game. This was all about the hate groups that come to our community to try to spread racism and bigotry. Our players made an emotional decision to show these people they are not welcome on our campus, and we respect our players' freedom and ability to choose that. Well, the pro-Confederate rally hosted by the groups The Highwaymen and Confederate 901 was billed as a protest involving people fed up with this political correctness BS. Oh, you mean not only are you being forced to be a good neighbor, but you're being told that bigotry and racism has no place in our society anymore, and you're going to be the most toxic element in that? Oh, you mean you didn't give up the idea that you could still be fighting the Civil War? The protesters marched through the school's Oxford, Mississippi campus, claimed the rally was not in defense of racism, no, but of heritage and their history. During a prayer at the start of the rally, however, one black pro-Confederate protester, H. Key Hedgerton, thanked all the Christian white folks and plantation owners in the South who took that heathen in Africa who didn't know anything about our Lord Jesus Christ. Israel, also of Think Progress, brings us this final offering here at the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. Do not fear, the chef's table is still coming up, and the French 77s are always mixed and ready for you, at least in the virtual world. The NRA, famous for its tone-deaf response to gun violence, once again is facing a barrage of criticism, this time for a shocking headline in its American Rifleman magazine. Next to a photo of Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi and former Representative Gabby Giffords announcing new gun legislation, they use the headline, Target Practice. Now look, the NRA is not being overly violent in their intentions here. It's just they're practicing their history and heritage. Now, the photo was taken in January as the two announced the introduction of H.R. 8, the Bipartisan Background Checks Act of 2019. The article by the NRA's chief lobbyist, Chris W. Cox. attempts to spin the proposal, which would require universal background checks before private gun sales and close the notorious gun show loophole, as an effort by congressional Democrats to target gun owners for persecution with extreme firearm transfer bans. The bill has 5 House Republican co-sponsors. Now, after the Huffington Post's Jennifer Bendery posted the photo on Twitter on Friday, gun violence opponents were quick to note that, at best, insensitivity of the juxtaposition of the headline with the photo. Really? Because we all know that Gabby Giffords got shot by maybe I shouldn't say nutcase. But that's how he's portrayed. But he shot Gabby Giffords because of what he had read in the right-wing media. Let's be clear about that. Now, Fred Gutenberg, an anti-gun violence activist whose daughter was murdered in the 2018 Parkland school shooting, called the headline intentional and decried it as an incitement of violence. And yes, I believe that is true. Christine Pelosi, a Democratic strategist and the daughter of the House Speaker, called it an unintentional, outrageous, criminal incitement. And Senator Chris Murphy observed that the NRA knows what they are doing here. And Representative Eric Swalwell of California suggested that the call for violence should be met with legal consequences as well as a public boycott. I don't know. I've been boycotting the NRA. What can I boycott again? Maybe funders of the NRA? I am boycotting Russian mobbed-up businesses. Now, one NRA-endorsed and funded House Republican did rush to defend the group. First-term Representative Dan Crenshaw, of course, a first-term Tea Party type. Freedom Caucus. Ignored the headline and tweeted that since the article is about legislation targeting gun owners, not the NRA targeting Democrats, I should add here that he should have just added, "What are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes, you stupid liberal? You ought to be shot." While Crenshaw ran on a platform that included a claim that we must do a better job of enforcing current laws, especially background checks, so that guns stay out of the wrong hands. He is not a supporter of the underlying bill because no crook thinks that they are the wrong hands. Not one. Okay, let's get to our break. And when we come back from the break, hey, it's Monday. It's okay. When we come back from the break, we're going to go through weather from around the world. And we got quite a bit of weather here at the mothership. And I see there's weather from around the world also. And then we're going to go through and finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. And we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, Trump the prequel. There's a theory that explains the current presidency is not an aberration, but a culmination. After all, according to PolitiFact, the presidential candidate who told the most lies before Trump was Romney, and before that, McCain. There's a trend. The movie Vice goes back to the days of Bush and Cheney, or more accurately, as the film notes, Cheney and Bush. It's not a lot here that we didn't know. Their administration was a time of rampant corruption and a pernicious exploration of constitutional and statute law for workarounds to advance fringe ideologies and personal agendas. But seeing it played out on a screen in the current context is potent and begs some obvious questions. As a cinematic effort, Vice has it going on. Amy Adams portrays the force of nature that remains wife Lynn, Sam Rockwell has the clueless George W. down, and a 40 extra pound Christian Bale's Dick Cheney is one for the ages. Now, any exploration of an alpha male anti-hero is, of course, going to examine family relationships, and the way Cheney ends up dealing with the issue of his out-gay daughter is perhaps as revealing as anything you'll ever learn about this man. Director Adam McKay gives the subject matter here, a treatment similar to that in his The Big Short from 2015, and then some. In this one, you'll be addressed directly. Here's some interesting menu items in a restaurant scene. Be treated to a bedroom interpretation of Macbeth, and that's before you discover the identity of the mystery narrator. A valid question is whether Cheney and Company's treatment advice is too light, given their ongoing potential exposure to war crimes charges. You'll have to decide whether the comedy here is black enough to suit, and for that contemporary connection, make sure you stay through the credits. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our page on YouTube.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Christopher Intagliata. Think killer robots. What comes to mind? Maybe this guy?
I'll be back.
We are not talking about Terminator. We're talking about much simpler technologies that are at best a few years away. In fact, many of which you can see under development today in every theater of the war.
Toby Walsh, a professor of artificial intelligence at the University of New South Wales in Sydney. He spoke February 14th as part of a discussion called Killer Robots, Technological, Legal, and Ethical Challenges at a meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science.
And so these are systems that are using sensors and software processing on their own to determine what constitutes a target and then applying lethal force to that without supervision or meaningful human control.
Another speaker, Peter Acero, co-founder of the International Committee for Robot Arms Control, has participated in UN talks on autonomous weapons.
So what we've really been lobbying is not a sort of complete ban on some specific technical capability, but a more general requirement that all weapon systems should have meaningful human control over the targeting and engagement of those weapon systems. We're also quite fearful that these could constitute a new kind of weapon of mass destruction to the extent that a small group of people or individuals could launch large numbers of autonomous weapon systems that could have devastating effects on populations.
Mary Wareham, coordinator of the campaign to stop killer robots at Human Rights Watch, cited the results of a new international poll on killer robots.
The public is becoming more opposed to the prospect of a weapon system that would remove human control.
61% of the adults polled from 26 countries opposed the idea of killer robots. That's up from 56% 2 years ago.
Opposition was strong for both men and for women, although it was men who were more likely to favor these weapon systems compared to women. And the story hasn't ended yet. We don't know how it will end. We hope that it will end with an international treaty that provides guidance as the norm, stigmatizing the removal of human from the selection and attack process of weapon systems. Or, the gates will open and we'll see proliferation, destabilizing incidents, and from our experts, it's just a bad situation all round if we don't get this new international law now.
Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Christopher Intagliata.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
For an expectant mother, taking care of her developing baby means taking good care of herself. One way she can do this is by ensuring she gets vaccinated. If a woman is or might be pregnant during flu season, it's especially important to get her annual flu shot, preferably before the end of October. In addition, women should be vaccinated against whooping cough during the third trimester of each pregnancy. Failure to get vaccinated places both mother and baby at increased risk for serious complications of these infections, including hospitalization and even death. If you're pregnant or planning to get pregnant, ask your healthcare provider when you should get your vaccines. Thank you for joining us on A Minute of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com,
Show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
A Big Booby Award given to a girl high school student, a member of the cheerleading squad, by the coaches? Are you kidding me? I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute, and that is a real thing that happened. A mock award at the Tremper High School in Kenosha, Wisconsin. All in good fun, according to the coaches, but not fun at all, or appropriate, or illegal, according to parents, students, some other coaches at the school, and the ACLU. A female coach wrote an email to the school administration saying that it didn't take, quote, much to see that this is extremely degrading to women. Women athletes shouldn't be paraded in public like that. A mother said she wanted, quote, for these girls to be treated with respect. I don't think that's too much to ask. And Emma Roth, an attorney with the ACLU Women's Rights Project, said, quote, it's important that we intervene at a young age and that girls are taught their worth and are treated equally. When this doesn't happen, they carry this message for the rest of their life. In response, so far, the school has agreed to cease giving out these degrading mock awards in the future. The ACLU has demanded that the district appropriately discipline the cheerleading coaches and has called for mandatory anti-harassment training and other remedial steps and has threatened litigation. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
This is Solidarity News on Radio Labour.
This is a Radio Labour report recorded on Monday, February 25th, 2019. I'm Mark Boulanger. The international labor movement is reacting to the vast changes in the workplace due to increased automation by saying the world can create good jobs if the political will is there. That was the central message presented to a panel discussion at the World Economic Forum by Sharon Burrow. Ms. Burrow is the General Secretary of the International Trade Union Confederation. The ITUC is the labor body which represents national labor centers such as the Ghana Trades Union Congress at the world level. Ms. Burrow was asked by the panel moderator to describe labor's stance on technology and jobs. She refers to a recent report on the topic by the UN's International Labour Organization, the ILO.
First of all, let me say that we're not particularly frightened about the technology. We actually think there are ethical issues, but there's societal issues about how you deploy technology, and we don't believe in a deterministic future either. So it is a matter of the use of the technology and then how you integrate it. But for trade unions, we've been integrating technology for decades. What's different now is the speed and the dramatic shifts in the way production is managed or the way we're dealing with, services of any kind. Yes, the skills will be very different. You're still going to have agriculture and construction and manufacturing and services in a whole variety of ways. There'll be some new industries. It's really the question of the skills. So if you walk back from this a little and you say, so our challenge is really the transition, there are periods of disruption. Yeah. Now, we've not dealt with those as efficiently as we might have in previous transitions. But it's always, in economies that have dealt well with this, in businesses that have dealt with it, skilling, upskilling, reskilling, always been part of the equation. And we need to add a few more things now. There will be displaced workers. I mean, the jobs, we can argue about whether there'll be more jobs or less jobs. We're not prepared to give up on full employment. But it will be, in fact, the case that while there'll be melded or blended jobs with technology, there'll also be displacement. And we have to get the social contract right. I mean, already we've got inequality that's at historic levels. So we need to have a renewed social contract for that basis. The ILO's report actually gives you a very good frame on this. Reinvigorated social contract with a floor of a labour guarantee. So as we're seeing displaced workers by platform work, where you are terribly precarious, you can't actually plan your working life or your income, then we can fix that. And so there are solutions. We've just got to have the mindset and the collaborative will to make it happen.
This also begs the question, which Sharon, you touched on, what is a good job? And to your point, there's plenty of job creation in some places in the U.S. A lot of politicians would boast about job creation. Half of the fastest growing job categories are $15 an hour or less. So what does a good job look like? How do we make sure we have them?
Well, you make sure you have them, first of all, by ensuring everybody has a living wage, a minimum living wage. If you can't live on a wage, then in fact you have a precarious life. That leads to a precarious economy. We can make any job a good job, and we can recognise work, care work, for example, and pay it a good wage. It's not about affordability. The world's 3 times richer than it was 20 years ago, but we're not distributing it through wages. So a minimum living wage, universal social protection, so you have income when in fact you have times when you've been displaced or when you're raising a family or whatever it might be. We know the solutions. You can put a labour guarantee under all workers. It's a much more significant challenge for us to say, do we have the political will to do that? At the most challenging is to say, are we prepared to give everybody a good, secure working life, whatever they're working at? And we can do it. We have the money, universal social protection, a minimum living wage, and the right to bargain collectively.
And that's it. International labor news you can use. I'm Mark Boulanger. Thank you for listening. And remember, it's all about global solidarity.
From New York, I'm Luke Vargas with your World in 2 minutes. Venezuela is just hours away from what could be a pivotal day in the country's history. Opposition figure and self-proclaimed interim president Juan Guaido has set a Saturday deadline for the Venezuelan armed forces to switch allegiance to him and away from President Nicolas Maduro. Guaido wants the military to allow in foreign aid, including that stockpiled by the U.S. at the Colombian city of Cúcuta, in direct defiance of orders from Maduro not to do so. It's not clear where attention should be trained come Saturday. Cúcuta is one obvious choice, since the city not only hosts several tons of American food and medicine, but is playing host to a major music festival arranged by the British entrepreneur Richard Branson. Tens of thousands of people, including many Venezuelans who fled to Colombia, spent Friday at that concert, and Guaido himself even made an appearance, a stunt that involved him leaving Venezuela in defiance of a court order. That sets Guaido up for possible arrest upon his return, and that's not the only reason Cúcuta could be in the news. Thousands of volunteers have pledged to carry aid into Venezuela on foot on Saturday, setting up a possible clash with police and the military at major crossing points. Others are said to be planning to smuggle aid in through unguarded parts of the border, though even remote locations can become flashpoints, as evidenced Friday morning when the Venezuelan military opened fire and killed at least one member of a Brazilian tribe that had tried to stop the closure of a land border with Brazil. Leaders of the Pemon tribe have pledged to assist the opposition in smuggling aid into Venezuela through the rainforest. And then comes what happens within Venezuela, where demonstrators plan to confront soldiers at barracks around the country and convince them to defect. It may take some time for the outcome of Saturday's showdown to become clear to the outside world. Venezuela's government has already begun to block access to foreign TV networks, news websites, and social media nationwide. Luke Vargas, New York.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. River City Hash Mondays. We always begin weather from around the world, along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, on the west coast of the continental United States of America, because there's a lot more of America where we come from. And it is currently 41 degrees. Winds are out of the northeast at a negligible 1 to 2 miles per hour. Will be increasing in about an hour to an hour and a half. Out of the west-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, bringing with it even more copious amounts of water falling from the sky at rate. We're under an active flood watch. Not here at the mothership itself, fortunately, let's hope. If the creeks and the river rises this high, it's biblical. All right. And I don't mean in a sort of grandiose sense. It's got to come up. I'm kind of on a little peak, a little hill. So it's good. But outlying areas, I probably don't want to be traveling around too much. Back in the more rural parts of town, there's some low-lying pastures that are underwater, and the roads aren't that much higher than the low-lying pastures, so we don't want to go there. So that's how that is around here. Looks like we're expecting, just about an inch to an inch and a quarter of rain. That's why we're in the flood watch. Ostensibly, we will have only a small chance of rain tonight. Overnight lows in the mid-20s. And then tomorrow, looks like we're going to get about a third of an inch of rain mixed in with snow with a high of 43. So mid to low 40s, overnight lows in the, it looks like here tonight, low 20s. And tomorrow, overnight lows ostensibly are going to be in the low 30s. So we'll look how that will turn out. Let's see now. Pollen is, of course, at none because it's being washed from the sky. Thank you. And the air quality index is pretty darn good at 11 parts per million, though the daytime UV index has now increased because of the angle of the sun into the moderate range of 3. Barometric pressure is falling at 29.34 inches. Visibility is down to 2 miles or less. And relative humidity is at 85%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property. And these people positively live around the world. London is 66 and sunny. Paris is 64 and sunny. Rome is 60 degrees and fair. Kiev is 43 and fair. Kabul is 23 degrees and clear. Hong Kong is 61 and mostly cloudy. Tokyo is 53 and mostly cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 64 degrees and clear. San Francisco, California is 49 degrees and cloudy with an active weather advisory. Let us look to that right now. And it is a gale warning. Now, that's pretty stiff. We're talking 60 miles per hour or more in gusts. I don't think we're going to get sustained winds, but they are looking for sustained winds of, just a mere 30 to 40 miles per hour. So good luck with that. And New York is 38 and mostly cloudy with wind. And, of course, they have an active gale warning as well. Wow, talk about coastal. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property. And these people positively live around the world. Fenwick of Alternet brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. If you don't count the weather from around the world, it's a little bit more than an amuse-bouche, but there you go. Well, if you're going to set up propaganda shops, you might as well keep it close. And the White House intends to create a panel of scientists, wink, wink, with the intention of attacking the scientific consensus both within and outside of the federal government that climate change poses a clear and severe threat to the world And that's from a new report that the Washington Post revealed yesterday. According to the report, officials with the National Security Council want to arrange the group so that it would be outside the normal scrutiny such advisory panels typically require. Because they already have a back channel with Vlad, they don't need to be overseen by government and our ridiculous, quaint laws. Apparently, the White House doesn't want the public to have clear insight to a committee designed to spread propaganda and disinformation about clearly established science. And no more than a Rear Admiral of the Navy, I believe it was Rear Admiral, don't quote me, a high-ranking military official said setting up this group of scientists who aren't really scientists to refute and set out propaganda memes against the consensus of the government. Is this guy really working for us? No, he's not, and everybody knows it.
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer, mes automnes quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers, c'est tout.
Jonathan Landy and Mark Hosenball of Reuters brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Dateline, Washington, in what is likely to be their first public use of subpoena power since taking over the U.S. House of Reps in January. Democrats were set to vote on Tuesday on subpoenaing documents on the Trump administration's migrant family separation policy. If approved, the subpoenas by the House Oversight Committee would show Democrats beginning to invoke the investigative clout they obtained when November's in November handed them a majority control over the House and took it away from the Republicans. No, they were trounced soundly. Not only took it away, we grabbed it from them by the throat. It's the only way to do it. Democrats are initiating a series of investigations of Trump, his personal finances and business interests, and his 25-month-old administration, including controversial policies such as family separation. The House Oversight Committee will vote on a resolution from Chairman Elijah Cummings to issue subpoenas to Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, Sieg Heil, Attorney General William Barr, and Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar. The resolution is likely to pass as the committee's Democrats outnumber Republicans 24-18. As part of a crackdown on illegal immigration, the Trump administration separated thousands of children from their immigrant parents. It's not a crackdown on illegal immigration. It's a crackdown on brown people. They came here legally to apply for asylum. Please, please, please don't play into the stupid propaganda that they keep repeating. It's not illegal immigration. And then when those kids are placed in icebox baby gulags, maybe we ought to not call it illegal immigration and call it people who are seeking asylum and we're persecuting them for it. An oversight committee official said the documents to be subpoenaed are the same as those requested from the department in July of 2018. After those departments, because they were run by people like Trey Gowdy, refused to hand over the documents, the panel's then Republican Trey Gowdy declined Cummings' request to issue subpoenas and refused to hold a vote. And that's the history of it now, isn't it? All right, we got to get out of here. you do know that Netroots Radio is going to be broadcasting on, and there's a lot more news coming up. I can see it. Social media is starting to blow up again. So do stay tuned, and we'll be back tomorrow for Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. So stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we'll meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pas fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goer. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.